entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, guys? So this challenge is something that I got really into in the original Dark Souls. You know, I watched guys like Ray Dimitri and Sumptadox and Vegeta 311 who created the challenge, and Grandpa all tackle the challenge so differently, and it really kind of changed the way that I played Souls games. And it, you know, I got that the Soul Level 1 one-shot challenge done on Dark Souls, and that was huge for me. And so you know, I figured on Elden Ring I want to throw the challenge out there again and bring it back. And you know, I want to throw all the credit I can to Vegeta 311 for coming up with this in the first place back in the original Dark Souls game. And it just you know, changed the way that I play games. So I wanted to share it with everybody and see what everybody could do on Elden Ring. I've successfully finished the challenge, so I wanted to see, so I know it's doable, so I wanted to see what everybody else can do, because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I haven't thought of. You know, there's 2 or 3 other ways I want to do this challenge that I think will work, but I want to see what other people come up with as well. So let's get right into it and talk about kind of what you're doing here and what the challenge entails. So the rules are, you're going to start at level 1, which is, in this game, is a Wretch, and then you have to earn the right to level up using the point system. That means if you want to level up, you have to kill bosses first and earn the points in order to level up. So we'll talk about how you earn points. We'll get to that in a second. You have to play through the game normally. You can't save edit or give yourself items or have someone else give you items or anything like that. Only stuff that you can acquire in the game by playing it. You can wrong warp, but only for items. You can't wrong warp to skip a boss. You can wrong warp past, you know, a mandatory boss as long as you come back and kill that boss at some point. So all your bosses and mini bosses that are normally required to progress in the game naturally, you have to kill all of them. So if you do skip ahead, you just have to make sure that you come back and kill them. The maximum amount of points on your first playthrough is the goal. So, you know, like, you can't go into New Game Plus and all that stuff to keep trying to get points. It's just what you can do up to the Elden Beast the first time you see him. One-shotting a legend, they call him in this game, or a main boss, gives you 2 points. You are allowed to 2-shot a main boss. I'm going to call, you know, they're called legends in this game. I'm going to call them main bosses, or bosses and mini bosses is the term I'm used to from Dark Souls, so that's probably what I'll use. So 2-shotting a boss will still give you 1 point, but you have to 1-shot mini bosses. So mini or field bosses, they're called in this game, will give you a point if you 1-shot them, but you have to 1-shot them. If you are unable to 1-shot mini boss or a field boss, you don't get that point. And if they are mandatory for the story to go on, you know, if it happens to be a mini or field boss that's mandatory for you to continue the progression of the story, and you're unable to 1-shot them, then your playthrough ends there, just like if you were unable to 2-shot a main boss. So here, there's a list here on the Elden Ring wiki of what constitutes the bosses versus mini bosses, or the legend bosses versus the field bosses, as they call this. And anything that respawns obviously will not get, you know, not count as a boss or a mini boss or anything like that. So boss fights, this is where we kind of get into like the semantics. The boss fights with multiple opponents will allow for 1 hit for each to count as a 1-shot. However, you're not allowed 2 hits on each boss for a 2-shot kill. In that situation, you still have to 1-shot at least one of them to get the point. So for example, if you're fighting the Godskin Duo, you can't 2-shot each of them. You have to 1-shot at least one of them. So the other caveat would be bosses with 2 mandatory phases and a shared health bar, such as like the Fire Giant, where it cuts you off and you have to go to another phase, Renala, or Godfrey. They count as a double boss. So same rules apply. You know, you have to 1-shot at least one of them, and you are allowed to 2-shot the other one to get 1 point, or 1-shot both of them and get 2 points. Bosses with 2 mandatory phases but have different names and separate health bars, such as the final fight of the game, will award you a point if you have to 2-shot both of them still. So you can get 1 point if you have to 2-shot Radagon and the Elden Beast. But if you want to get the 2 points, you have to one-shot both of them. Causing any enemy to fall off a cliff, it's not very big in this game like it was in Dark Souls, but I kept it there. That counts, but if you make them fall off on their own, it doesn't count. So when we get to what counts as a one-shot, single attacks with multiple hits will still count as one attack. So, you know, here's a small list here, like something like Burno Flame. So even though you get a ton of pillars, kind of like Firestorm in Dark Souls, which carried me through some of my bosses, Pest Threads, you know, they have multiple attacks, but it's one button press. So it's, you know, or like Ashes of War. There's tons of Ashes of War out there, or weapon skills that have multiple hits for every one press of R2. So to use, you know, one set amount of FP to use that skill and one R2 press, but will attack, you know, multiple times because that's the weapon art or whatever. So that still counts as one attack. And Vegeta's original, you know, theory on that was basically the one attack challenge was lame sounding, so he wanted to call it the one shot challenge. So, you know, here we are a decade later. When you reach a point in the game where you're stuck and you can't progress because you can no longer take out any of the remaining bosses or mini bosses, your challenge is over. So the goal, and it was just bosses in the previous, you know, in Dark Souls, but now in this one you have like field bosses that are mandatory for main story progression, so it's a little different on this one. So anyways, whenever you get to a boss or field boss that's mandatory in the normal storyline and you can't one-shot that mini boss or two-shot that boss, the challenge ends. So the goal is not just to win the game and beat the Elden Beast, it's going to be to gain the most amount of points that you can before you can no longer progress, which requires you know, a little bit of strategy, and everybody's going to tackle it different, which is kind of cool, and what I'm excited to see in Elden Ring. You know, and you know, there's a lot of builds that are going to struggle with a lot of these, you know, field bosses, and some that are going to struggle with the big bosses but do really well against the field bosses. And so you know, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, who's able to get the most points, because there's like well over, I think, 150 total boss slash mini bosses in this game, last time I saw the list. So there's a lot of, you know, boss slash mini bosses, and therefore a lot of points that can be made. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm pretty excited about my second playthrough. I just did kind of what I had to do to get through and make sure that it was doable, that I could beat the game and get through at least the storyline. So now I'm just kind of excited to see how other people are doing it, and I'm going to go try again and try to get a lot more points and do a lot more field bosses and stuff. I just wanted to get this done so I could get it up and kind of share with the community and get everybody out there going, and see what we couldn't come together with on the challenge. So let's finish up real quick though. The summoning a friend, you can't do that. No spirit ashes, so a one shot is, you know, strictly taking an enemy's health bar from 100% to 0% in one attack. You know, whether it's one cast of a spell or one, you know, melee attack, or one you know, Ash of War use, whatever it is, one of those. So therefore, obviously, you know, if you were to use like a Spirit Ash or something, they're going to hit the enemy a lot more than once. So you know, that does not count. So the other part is obviously no summoning people or you know, having them present in your game for buffs. You can't, you know, summon a buddy to put some sort of buff on you so you do more damage. The other side is you can't go into someone else's game for the same purpose to try to get your kill. So to wrap up, you know, the rules, I want to kind of give credit one more time to Vegeta for creating this challenge back on the original Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition, and you know, like I said earlier, completely changing the way that I play Souls games. And this is just, it was so much fun for me on all the Souls games to go and do these one-shot challenges, and I found myself wanting to go into like Dragon Age and all these other games and see, like, you know, what's the most damage I can do, you know, like how can I, you know, all these other RPGs that I play, like, you know, how can I go, and I see a lot of guys like Grandpa and Ray doing the same thing, and so you know, some of these guys that are just awesome YouTubers and gamers, by the way. If you haven't been to any of those guys' channels, go check them out. Again, you know, if you guys have questions or anything like that, I'm very responsive, and you know, I'm excited to see what you guys come up with, and to see the kind of damage numbers that you guys are throwing up. I think the highest I saw on mine was around 25 or 30k, so I'm excited to see what you guys do, and especially some of the melee builds and ideas that are coming out. You know, I'm very excited to see what happens. So yeah, we'll see what you guys have, and then you know, like, I'm gonna leave you with the kind of final run of my first ever challenge on Elden Ring here, and you can kind of see the last couple bosses and see that it's possible. I think things are going to get interesting, and things are going to change as, you know, patches come out and stuff like that. Yeah, I recorded all this stuff on March 17th, so, you know, I'm posting this probably tonight or tomorrow, which would be, you know, March 18th, March 19th, and, you know, I know a new patch, and so I guess, you know, we'll see kind of what happens with that. And you know, as you can see, I was pretty reliant in my playthrough on the Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, you know, and I kind of at the beginning bounced back and forth with a couple different things. So, you know, it's like I said, I've got some ideas on some other playthroughs, and hopefully, you know, they don't get changed or nerfed or anything like that, and we'll kind of go from there. But you can see I was throwing up pretty huge damage numbers, you know, to where I was literally one-shotting some of the like, you know, like the fire giant, for example, did so much damage that it insta-phased him, and I feel like we probably could have, if it wasn't for the mandatory phase, they probably could have one-shot him or come very close with the Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike. But there's a lot of, you know, especially when it comes to, like, you know, sorcery and intelligence-based builds, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Then, you know, and then for me, like, again, I've said it a couple times now, I'm most excited, I think, for some of the melee stuff. You know, if someone's able to, you know, I know that on the Dark Souls one-shot challenge run, for me, the biggest run that changed kind of the way that I looked at it was Grandpa's, when he did a melee only version of the one-shot build, and it was extremely impressive. So you know, at some point that's definitely on my list. As you can see here, I was still kind of back to my Dark Souls days with Firestorm, which is how I one-shot Manus back in the day. I think I was the only one who ever did that glitchless with Fire Tempest, and it took like a 36-hour stream of attempts to finally get the RNG to line up. But yeah, it was the same thing with Radagon. I don't know how many times I ran this fight you're seeing here, but it was worth it. We finished it. Now it's you guys' turn. I'm excited. Let's see what you guys got. Have fun, and definitely let me know what you guys have. Send me some comments, you know, links, whatever. But have fun, guys.